Vehicle deductions for coaches sit on two technical choices and one discipline. The two choices are how to calculate the deduction and which method to start with. The discipline is the contemporaneous log the IRS requires regardless of method. This unit covers the choice and the log, with vendor selection deferred to Module 19.8 alongside the rest of the tooling decisions. The choice itself sounds clerical. Pick a method, deduct. The reason it matters is what happens after. Method 1 runs on a single number multiplied. Method 2 runs on a year's worth of receipts and a mileage log. The two produce different deduction amounts on different paperwork burdens, and the IRS does not let you flip back and forth based on which year looked better. Once a method is on the return, the road through that vehicle's life is mostly determined. The point of the standard rate is that it's a pre-baked average. The IRS has already done the operating cost math for a representative vehicle and rolled it into one number per mile. For a coach driving a normal car, normal miles, normal insurance, the average is close enough to your reality that the simplicity is worth a few cents of imprecision either way. The rate moves year to year, so verify before filing, but the mechanism does not change. Actual expense becomes the right answer in a narrow band. Heavy vehicle, high operating cost, high business use percentage, somebody comfortable filing every fuel receipt. Outside that band, the bookkeeping cost of the method eats the deduction advantage. Most coaches drive a Civic to a co-working space, not a contractor's truck to job sites, and the standard rate covers that profile cleanly without the file cabinet. The asymmetry exists because the actual method locks in a depreciation schedule on the vehicle, and the IRS doesn't let you abandon a schedule mid-life to chase a higher number. Once that schedule starts, it has to finish. Starting on standard preserves the option to switch later if a different vehicle or a different mileage pattern changes the math. Starting on actual closes that door. The underlying test is where your principal place of business sits. If your home office qualifies, business mileage starts the moment you leave the driveway. If it doesn't, the trip to wherever you regularly work is commuting and never deducts. That single qualification flips a co-working space drive from yes to no, and is the case worth running by the CPA before you assume. Contemporaneous is a legal word and it has teeth. A log written in March about a drive that happened in February still counts. A log assembled in April for the prior calendar year does not. That's a reconstruction, and an agent treats it as one. The audit question is whether the record of the miles existed at the time, separate from whether the miles themselves existed. GPS apps win on this specifically because the timestamps are not yours to write. All three categories produce a defensible log only if the entry happens close to the trip. The GPS apps make that automatic. The trip records itself, and the classification happens in the moment with a swipe. Manual log in bookkeeping software and a spreadsheet both work in principle, in practice only if the habit is iron. The breakage point on the manual options is always the same. A busy week, 3 uncategorized trips, and the record falls behind. Module 19.8 names the vendors. The example is built around the cases coaches actually run into, and the takeaway is that the categorization happens trip by trip, not vehicle by vehicle. Same car, same year. The co-working commute is personal because the destination is a regular workplace. The client-site visits are business because they're irregular and tied to engagements. The ICF chapter is business because professional development counts. What the app does for you is force the classification on the day it happened, while the trip purpose is still obvious. Every uncaptured mile this year is a deduction surrendered, and the surrender is silent. Nothing on the return signals what was left out. Install today, configure today, classify the next trip tonight. The rule on prior months is to leave them alone. A reconstructed log under audit creates more risk than the deduction it tries to recover.